Hello, sixth graders. Welcome to sixth grade math, solving percent problems lesson. Pause while you write the lesson title in your math notebook. Pause again while you write today's lesson objective in your math notebook. Today's objective is I can solve percent problems by completing practice problems with 100% accuracy in multiple attempts. Today's state standard is use ratio and rate reasoning to solve mathematical problems in real-world context. Notice the pencil icon at the top of this page. That means that you need to copy this key idea into your math notebook. Finding the percent of a number. Write the percent as a fraction. You can also use a decimal. Then multiply by the whole. The percent times the whole equals the part. So the example they give you, which you need to write, is 20% of 60 is 12. So 20% written as a fraction is 1/5 of, usually in math, when you see the word of, you want to multiply, and then 60 is just 60, is, the math symbol for is an equal sign, and when you multiply that out, you get 12. And here is the model. You need to write that in your notes as well. All right, let's take a look at example 1, finding the percent of a number. 25% of 40 is what number? This study tip is important. It says you can use mental math to check your answer in example 1. 10% of 40 is 4. So whenever you have a number that ends in a 0, you know that 10% is just the first digit. So 10% equals 4. That means that 20% is twice that. So that equals 8. And 5% is half of that. So 5% equals 2. And 8 plus 2 equals 10. So that's what they did in the box. So 25% equals 10. So that's a quick way to do percents. You can do that actually mentally, most of you. The way to do it with multiplication is shown here. 25% of 40 equals 1/4 times 40. So we write the percent as a fraction and we multiply. We divide out the common factors and we simplify it. So 25% of 40 is 10. If you do not like fractions and you would rather not do something like what's shown in the study tip box, or you have something that is not a nice even number, you can also use decimals. And so 25%, remember, equals 25 over 100. So as a decimal, that equals 0.25, and you can multiply that. Instead of using a fraction, you can multiply that by your number. And when you do that, you will also get 10. So if you prefer to multiply by decimals, that is always an option. You do not have to use fractions. If you don't like fractions, you can use decimals instead. Example 2, you can use a ratio table to find the percent of a number. I find this a little bit tricky sometimes for kids, but it is an option. So it says finding the percent of a number using a ratio table. So 60% of 150 is what number? So it says use a ratio table to find the part. Let one row be the part and let the other be the whole. So when we're doing the percent, part over whole, 60 out of 100 equals 60%. So they put that as a fraction here in our ratio table. And then it says find an equivalent ratio with 150 as the whole. So we want to turn our 100 into 150. Well, it's going to take us a couple steps using a ratio table to do that. So first of all, we have to turn that 100 into a 50, so we're going to divide that by 2. And if we divide the bottom by 2, we have to divide the top by 2. So that makes 30/50ths. And then we want to multiply that 50 by 3. So 50 times 3 is 150, and 30 times 3 is 90. So we end up with 90 over 150. So 60% of 150 equals 90. Here's a second key idea for you to write down. It says you can use a related division equation to find the whole given the part and the percent. So it says finding the whole. Write the percent as a fraction, then divide the part by the fraction. And so remember that you can also use a decimal or decimal, as long as you use the correct decimal. And then divide. So you're dividing instead of multiplying. So the part divided by the percent equals the whole. So you really have to pay attention to the words in the problems that you are given. So 20% of 60 is 12. So 1/5 times 60 equals 12. So that's the percent times the whole equals the part. Write this in your notes. Sometimes you aren't given the whole, you are given the percent and the part. So then you need to divide. So you have the part divided by the percent, and that's going to equal the whole. So that's the related division equation. Another related division equation, which also comes up, is when you are given the percent and the whole, but not the part. So that would be the part divided by the whole equals the percent. So write all three of those in your notes along with the key idea, because this is very important as you start to work on your practice problems. And you have to really read the questions carefully. Example 3, finding the whole. 75% of what number is 48? So let's look and see what we've got here. 75% is the percent. We can tell that because it has a percent sign. And it says, of what number? So the missing number is the whole. Is 48, so that's the part. So we're going to take the part and we're going to divide that by the percent to get the whole. So we take 48 divided by 75%, and that's going to equal our whole eventually. So 48 divided by 3/4, because 75% as a fraction equals 3/4. And remember, you can do that as a decimal if you prefer. And we multiply by the reciprocal, 48 times 4/3. And we simplify, and that equals 64. So 75% of 64 is 48. Here's how to do the same thing using a ratio table. 120% of what number is 72? So 120% is the percent. This is the part. And we are missing the whole. So it's a good idea to go through and identify what's what before you ever start the problem. Use a ratio table to find the whole. Find an equivalent ratio with 72 as the part. So 72 is going to go in your top box because parts are in the top. So the first column represents the percent. We have 120 out of 100. That's more than 100%. That's 120%. That makes sense. And then we want to get our top box to equal 72. So we have to divide it first, so it can be something that's easily multipliable into 72. So 120 divided by 20 equals 6. And if I divide the top by 20, I have to do the same thing to the bottom. 100 divided by 20 is 5. And then I have to multiply by 12 to make that top number 72. And if I multiply the numerator by 12, I have to multiply the denominator by 12. So 5 times 12 equals 60. So that means that our whole number is 60 if our part is 72. So 120% of 60 is 72. Here's a real-life application, example 5. The width of a rectangular room is 80% of its length. What is the area of the room? So they've drawn a picture for us, and they have 15 feet, and 80% of 15 is this other measurement. So we're going to take 80% of 15, and we're going to multiply that. So in this case, we have the whole. The whole is 15, and the percent is 80, and we're looking for the part. So 4/5 times 15, and we cancel out our common factors and multiply, and we end up with 12. So the width is 12 feet. And then it says use the formula for area of a rectangle. 15 times 12 equals 180, because you were asked for the area of the room, not just the side length there. So the area of the room is 180 square feet. And our last example for today, we had a lot of them, is you win an online auction for concert tickets. Your winning bid is 60% of your maximum bid. How much more were you willing to pay for the tickets than you actually paid? And this is multiple choice. So your maximum bid is the whole. So we don't know what our whole was. And your winning bid is the part. Find your maximum bid. Here's the winning bid over here, by dividing the part by the percent. So we take the part, which was 120, and we divide that by 60%, which as a fraction is 3/5. As a decimal, it would be 120 divided by 0.60. And here we're working with fractions, so we would multiply by the reciprocal. 120, I'm going to show it to you the other way, divided by 0.6. We would move our decimal point over, and we would move our decimal point over. So it would be 6 going into 1200. 6 times 2 is 12, minus 12 would be 0, and then we have these two zeros to deal with, so we have to put those up there. So it's 200, and that's the same answer we get here. A lot of kids prefer decimals, so you should be able to do that. Your maximum bid is $200, and your winning bid is $120. So you were willing to pay $200 minus $100, which is $80 more for the ticket. So the correct answer is B, $80. You need to be sure that you complete your notes in your interactive student notebook, complete your Google form questions, and review your lesson if you need to. You also need to complete your Big Ideas math assignment in your Math Spiral notebook and submit that assignment when it is 100% correct, not before. Be sure you track your progress on your playlist.